Monday. I hadn't read. I looked at the weather a little bit. It's gonna be 86 tomorrow, I believe.
Hey, how are you?
I was planning on staying down there a week. Then they came up with this.
I'm sorry. Hey, we're Facebook Live, guys. I'm sorry. We were down here having a wonderful time just chatting and carrying on. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, we are in our work session in preparation for our January the 17th session. I'm sorry, in preparation for our January 21st session. So we have, as we usually do, try to have somebody come give us some information. And so Jennifer Gregory, who is with Retail Strategies, and they have been doing for the last number of years, keeping us updated on what's potential and what's coming in. And so I've listed it as an update from Jennifer on the retail activity past, present, and future. So you get a wide range of whatever it is you want to tell us.
That's great. And is it okay if I sit?
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, no, absolutely. Make yourself comfortable. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for having me. It's great to be back. Although I think maybe I updated you guys last year that our company actually has an office here in Starkville now, at the hub, right down the street, the old Cadence,
that way.
The old Cadence Bank building. So we're going into our second year with our Mississippi office. So that's a real point of pride for me personally, but I thought you guys would like to know that as well. So so pleased to just give an update on kind of where we are in this partnership, what's happening, what we can look forward to. As I think a lot of you know, there's a lot that we can't discuss on the record since this is a public meeting. If any of you ever want to have a private meeting, I'm happy to do that. I'll talk kind of about trends, traction, strategy, but specific brand names that we're working with, I can't mention that in a public meeting. The mayor and I stay in close contact, as do our partners at the partnership. So I'll get into some of that in just a second, but just wanted to start with that. So our company, Retail Strategies, if you're not familiar, we're based in Birmingham, as you see on the map. We have a Mississippi office here in Starkville. We also have one in Fort Worth, Texas, and in Atlanta, Georgia. But headquartered in Birmingham, we have about 65 people on our team. We've worked with nearly 1,000 cities over the last 13 years or so. And very pleased to have been partnered with Starkville now for 8 years, which that continuity has added to just a ton of success that we've had. Little caveat, I am not a retail recruiter. I head up our Downtown Strategies division. So you'll see kind of under the Retail Strategies logo, we have 3 divisions at our company. Retail recruitment, which is what we do for you guys and what we'll talk about today. Downtown Strategies, and small business support. So I'm the president of Downtown Strategies. I head up those 2 divisions, have a team here in Starkville and in Birmingham. But because I have a lot of history here in Starkville and a great relationship with many of you, I'm your messenger, if you will. But I also work very closely on this account, facilitate meetings with local developers, have talked to several of you about incentives and things like that for recent retail wins. So again, I'm Jen Gregory, for those of you that I don't know. So we're just closing our 8th year partnering with you guys, which is hard to believe. One thing that's really important to know and to remind ourselves, we always tell new clients, retail recruitment is a marathon, not a sprint. And we've seen that here in Starkville. A lot of the tenants that are at the Triangle Crossing development, we have a great partnership with Rise Partners, who is the leasing partner, the former leasing partner when that development was getting up and going and when Mr. Castleberry was building it. Almost all of the tenants there, we started recruiting to Starkville in about 2019. And we started having conversations with them then, saying, look at our market, this is a great market. It takes finding the perfect real estate for a retailer to open a store here. And I'm going to talk about that process a little bit, but that is really a great example of how this process works. So started having conversations in 2019. Then COVID happened and retailers really weren't doing a lot of new things, just kind of backfilling, a lot of closures, obviously. We had a fair share of closures here. We've backfilled almost all of those, I think, not all of them completely, but it took years to get those retailers to open up in the perfect piece of real estate. So we're never going to claim that we are the only ones responsible for a retailer opening. It takes a lot of different people. It certainly takes a willing property owner. It takes real estate brokers. It takes a willing city to offer, investment and incentives if that's necessary. And then certainly we're a big part of that as well. So there are, especially in a market like Starkville, you're going to have organic retail growth. There are going to be franchisees that say, oh, I love Starkville, I want to open up a blank there. And that may be something we had nothing to do with, and that's a great thing. But a lot of times, and over the last 8 years, we've had discussions about, well, if we're seeing that organic growth, do we really need y'all? And especially at the point that we are now here in Starkville, where you don't have a lot of inventory, for retail growth. Name a retailer that we may want here in Starkville, I'm sure there's a wish list. Likely, and I'll give you some metrics about that here in just a minute, but likely there's not a place for them to go. So they may love this market and want to be here yesterday. But if there's not a perfect piece of real estate, they don't exist to do us favors, they exist to make money. So they're not going to open unless they find that perfect spot for them. So having an 8-year partnership, that continuity, we are known in the retail industry as the representative for Starkville for retail. And that helps tremendously. Also, the retail industry changes a lot. Real estate directors hop from brand to brand to brand. There are even administration changes and new council members and aldermen and the like. But we've been, the continuity. And that's been, I think, very, very important. So very briefly, what the partnership entails, because I know there are some new folks. A lot of data. Mike Taggart at the partnership is obviously one of the funders for this partnership. It is funded by the City of Starkville, OCEDA, and BCC, Visitors and Convention Council. So partnership's a big stakeholder as well. Mike asks me for data frequently, and that's great. That's what it's for. So if he has someone poking around looking at opening up a downtown business and wants to know what the opportunity is for home goods or this or that, we're able to run data, provide that to him. We also did a good bit of that when you guys were determining incentives for the Miskelly's property. Ran a lot of data, looked at what the true projected success could be for a furniture user here. So that's what you get with our partnership anytime you want it. Obviously, a retail recruitment plan. Every year, we're kind of reassessing. I'm going to give you some of that information today about what our strategies are. And then, obviously, recruitment, but also representation. You may have heard of ICSC, formerly called the International Council of Shopping Centers. They have real estate deal-making shows all over the country. Vegas, Fort Worth, Atlanta, New York, Vancouver. We go to all of those and represent Starkville. That's where a lot of our deals are made. We know all the players there, so we have meetings. We put not just your market in front of them, but sites. Again, that's what it all comes down to is real estate. So that's what the partnership includes. So just a little bit of an update, and then I'd love to just take any of your questions. I like to start with this because obviously you make an investment in our company. One thing to note is that we don't make commission on any deals. You pay us a consulting fee. So we are essentially the outsourced retail department for the city. So that helps us tremendously because we can go to Jamie and Wade and say, we're interested in this piece of property. What can you tell us? You have it listed. We can help them, and they're not worried that we're going to take a piece of their commission. We're literally there to facilitate. Same with property owners. We reach out to them directly, but we don't make any money. So you're really the one that makes money if these deals happen through sales tax revenue, and of course the retailer and the property owner. So this is an example of, on average, now your Chick-fil-A is above average, but this is on average the per store annual sales for some of the popular, retailers, food retailers that a lot of us are familiar with. We call these, QSRs, quick service restaurants. That's kind of the terminology for this type. I know I look on Twitter occasionally, your ex. The mayor does an incredible job when people say, why can't we have a Cane's? Well, we've been talking to Cane's for years and years and years, and it's about the real estate. But also, people say another chicken place, another coffee place. I'm going to show you a couple of trends, but that's where the growth is happening. And Chicken Place isn't too bad, you know, they're doing $5 million of sales a year, and you guys get a portion of that. So when we succeed by bringing a retailer, you know, y'all get a portion of this every single year. So our contract has been paid for exponentially every single year just by recruiting one retailer. But, you know, we've obviously been involved with truly recruiting dozens, which is exciting. So I think this is really important, based, you know, so that y'all can kind of combat that, another Chicken Place, another Happy Place. What are the trends for 2025? First, and I think you're seeing a lot of this, customer experience through innovation. So retailers are they're spending tons of money, but they're paying really close attention to brand loyalty. So now think about all these food places, they all have an app, right? Like Nuke's, Jimmy John's, Chick-fil-A, and Chipotle. And the reason they do that is to make it convenient, but also to personalize that experience. If you have a favorite Chick-fil-A order, you can order the same thing every time you pull up to the drive-thru. They'll even route you to their store if you're nearby. So that's a big thing, and we're seeing lots of investment with that. Robotics and AI. Nobody really likes to think about that, about robotics potentially replacing a workforce, but it is starting to happen. McDonald's especially is you know, putting robots in their kitchen to do little things like assembling a burger, you know, that doesn't require a whole lot of, you know, thought. There will well, I say always, I don't know, I didn't imagine that we'd have robots flipping burgers, but I think for a long time there will be people in these businesses. But as demand increases, which we're seeing, you know, people are eating out more than ever, people are spending more money than ever in general, but in particular with food. It's just hard to keep up with that with a changing workforce. And we work in, you know, not every single state, but almost every single state in the country, certainly everyone in the Southeast, and every single city tells us their biggest challenge is housing and workforce. The industry is responding to that. This is a big one that applies to Starkville, refreshment of physical stores. So we saw Nuke's do that, right? Like they renovated their existing store, fine with the real estate, but Nuke's moving forward, you know, they're reducing the size of the dining inside and expanding the patio. So that's a big trend that we're seeing. Drive-thrus are a big one. I think I told y'all this last year, but I'll repeat it. Chipotle, now moving forward, every Chipotle has to have a Chipotlane, you know, which is the drive-thru where you can pre-order your food on the app and just swing through and pick it up. So we're seeing that almost as a necessity for QSRs moving forward. Marketing focus to acquire customers. They're just spending a lot of money on social media, and really creative ways to build relationships and loyalty with Gen X in particular. I'll skip down a little bit to millennials. You know, I'm on like the very top end of the millennial demographic, and so, you know, 30s, you know, in the 30s, almost to the 40-year mark, and millennials expect convenience. You know, a lot of us have kids going in 1,000 different directions, so if you can order food in advance, have a babysitter pick it up, or drive through after work to pick it up, that is the name of the game these days, is convenience. This is a big one for you guys, more relocations and renovations than new store expansions. So while there are brands that are growing and opening new stores, a lot of them are just, they have good real estate already. So they're just rethinking the real estate to fit better to their changing customer base. So I think you're seeing that some. Focus on secondary and tertiary markets. So that's great news for a market like Starkville. Those like major urban markets used to be, you know, where we saw a ton of the growth. So like in Aldi, for example, over the last couple of years, they started focusing more on secondary and tertiary markets, which that's exactly when that opened up the opportunity for Starkville. They had for years been saying, we think we want to be in Starkville. We're not sure if there's enough grocery demand. We're not sure it's big enough, but as soon as Wall Street said, you know, Aldi's kind of, you know, Wall Street committee said, yeah, let's go into these smaller markets, and there was a piece of real estate for them at Triangle Crossing, that was a no-brainer. And then adaptations for aging populations. So, you know, just thinking about how the consumer's changing. So those are a lot of the trends. I I've mentioned the real estate over and over again because that's where we are in Starkville. You know, we have our sites set on locations off of Highway 12, 182, out by Cornerstone, by Small Mart, by the Little Walmart, you know, kind of growing out there. When we think of, like all of us think about where would be a good place for retail, we think about these locations, but most of our retailers, they want to be by other retailers. You know, it's called retail synergy, or sometimes co-tenancy, you see that. Think about like every small town you've ever been in that has a Hibbett's, and where is it located? Near the Walmart, always. It's in a little shadow shopping center by the Walmart. Many times you see a Chick-fil-A and a Starbucks across the street from each other. That's called co-tenancy. They have a similar customer. They want to be by each other. Again, they are not going to do us favors. They're going to do what makes them money. So we're running out of a lot of those spaces. There's not a lot of room out by Walmart until we get up onto the bypass. We are aggressively showing some of those sites, but a lot of people don't want to be the first to a new location, right? They don't have to. They can. There's another Starkville somewhere else. Now I know we think nothing compares to Starkville, but when we look at the demographics, there are dozens of other Starkvilles. They'll just go there, you know. So the big thing is real estate. Finding that home run real estate is what we call it, which has kind of, in my world for downtown, we don't want any of this, right? We don't want a big parking lot on Main Street. You know, we don't want a lot of traffic and big, huge signs. But national retailers, that's everything they want. You know, so they want parking, lots of traffic, co-tenancy, like I mentioned, good signage. And I know everyone was, you know, there was chatter about, you know, the new sign ordinance kind of coming in, grandfathering. We've heard no complaints from any retailers about that at all. In fact, I would say that retailer traction has bumped up a little bit because there's such a nice, clean, uniformed look down Highway 12, which is the main corridor. So just to mention that, most of the time, they don't care about stuff like that. It signals a sense of quality to them. And I think Starkville has certainly earned over the years a reputation of being business friendly. I think decades ago, that may have been a challenge, but now we don't hear any concerns about, you know, doing business with Starkville.
Say that one more time.
For the people
a little louder.
on the line. Yeah, and that's a part of our job is to communicate challenges, and we don't hear that. People are, you know. So going to my next slide, we have 35 retailers that we are currently working with that are interested in the market. Different stages. Some are like, find me a site yesterday. Some are in negotiations with property owners right now. So we expect those to open soon, 12 months or so. But a lot are just showing interest, but there's no site available. So our focus going into 2025, and I should pause, I guess my next slide, I'll come back to our strategy. Our contract with you guys officially ends the end of this month for our most recent 3-year agreement. Obviously we have a tremendous amount of traction. We would love to continue working with you guys for another 3 years. I have sent that contract to Mayor Spruill. Just for full transparency, we have not raised our prices in 8 years. The price that, the original contract in 2016, we have honored that price for 8 years. So we are proposing a very, very slight price increase in year 2 and 3 of your contract, but not this year because we know your budgets are already set in the middle of your fiscal year. So happy to answer any questions about that in just a few minutes, but so that is the next step, is for us to renew the partnership. But assuming and hoping that we can continue representing you for years 9 and onward, our focus now is turning to working directly with property owners, and that is not always easy. We have reached out to almost every single property owner on Highway 12. We have not connected with all of them. That's a challenge, right? Not everybody lives here in Starkville. Not everybody, we know their numbers. So we're having, my involvement helps with a lot of that because our team in Alabama can lean on me to connect, but we're going to be making follow-up calls, you know, assuming our contract can move forward. And basically just saying, especially for underutilized sites, you know, what can we do? Are you interested in selling? What are your terms? You know, can we get this site activated so that we can attract more commercial development? So that's while maintaining that interest, that we have, we've got to find some more sites. And we've got to convince some folks to think outside of Highway 12. We're definitely doing that, but that's not always just super easy. We have a lot of traction right now with hospitality, residential, coffee, and QSR users. So QSR, again, quick service restaurants. Coffee, you would think, oh, we just got another Starbucks, we've got a new downtown coffee shop. People love their coffee. So we're working with one right now that is in the process of closing on a deal that we expect to be able to share more about soon. Hospitality, obviously that's a focus of, I think, can't speak for them, but the universities. We have set up some meetings with local developers that have a good track record of hospitality development success. Those are much harder deals to do than a coffee shop, They take a lot of proactive follow-up, and so we're in the thick of that right now. Residential, that's really not in our realm, but we are getting a lot of inbound leads because people know that we work with Starkville to say, do you know anything about this piece of real estate? And so we're just connecting those people with property owners or with commercial real estate brokers. But we're certainly not in the business of like recruiting residential, but higher and better use opportunities. So those buildings that are vacant on Highway 12 or that are just not, really, we think representing like the quality maybe that Starkville wants to see. Trying to connect retailers with those property owners. And then our scope of service really doesn't focus on downtown at all. Just because national retailers don't want to be downtown generally. There are a couple, Pita Pit, Orange Theory, those are considered national retailers. But again, we're getting some inbound leads, hospitality in particular, about downtown opportunities. Again, those are not super easy deals to do, but we have facilitated meetings. And so I would say that our Starkville partnership is probably one of our most successful partnerships at Retail Strategies in terms of the almost 1,000 cities that we've ever worked with, which again is a huge point of pride for mine. I can't say that I have a lot to do with that. Our team is really good. But also, again, I point it back to that continuity of having the trust of you guys and being able to do this in the marathon type work and not just for a year here and there, because that just doesn't really yield a lot of results. So our next steps are for us to renew that contract. Obviously, it ends officially at the end of this month. We're not going to stop working for y'all until you tell us that you don't want to work with us. Which we hope that's
It'll
the
be on
case.
it'll be on the first meeting in February.
Perfect. So that's that. Any questions? Happy to answer. Yes, ma'am.
So you talk about the marathon aspect of all this, and one of the areas that we're hoping to see some redevelopment in is on Highway 182. We've started that, and we've got years of construction yet to do there. How do y'all factor in that in dealing with retailers? Because I would think that would be an area that might be of interest to some.
Yes, I think it will. Construction is a really scary thing for retailers, so I would think that we would not get a lot of traction until that project is close to being done. A couple of years ago, one of the first retailers here in Starkville, decades and probably before I was born, commissioned a study to see if opening a second location on 182 would cannibalize their existing location. They did not share the results of that with us, but they have not moved forward either. But 182 does have a lot of challenges with real estate. Meaning which we have looked at in depth, a lot of properties are owned by multiple people or they're owned by estates. And that just is messy and it lengthens the cycle of a deal, essentially. So if we see a piece of property and there are 5 owners, a lot of times a retailer is gonna say, let me just go somewhere else because I can imagine how difficult that's gonna be. That's not always the case, and if that area was an area of huge demand, it may be different, but those are some of the challenges. Having the Dollar General and the Family Dollar there is helpful in terms of co-tenancy. Subway was recently bought by Jersey Mike's by the parent company that owns Jersey Mike's, the public equity company. So, you know, Subway is generally a tenant that would have co-tenancy with dollar stores. Others sometimes are like pizza, like Little Caesars. You already have a Little Caesars. So, you know, it's just, I think it's gonna take some time, but it is certainly a focus of ours. But I would say the biggest challenge right now isn't the, you know, future construction project, it's the challenges in some of the real estate. A lot of properties are in tax delinquency. That's all just messy. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but there are challenges.
Anyone else? Yes, sir?
So on Highway 12, you know, there's a three and a half acre site or something along those lines behind the C Spire. It was old
Yes.
Coca-Cola plant. What do you see for some site like, you know, it doesn't necessarily have frontage. I mean, it's got that access road in there to it. But I mean, it sets up on a high hill. It's a good site. It's been vacant for umpteen years.
Yes, we are in active conversations with 2 developers right now. Although I've heard that there is some traction with another one that's not involved with us. So until there's a public announcement that something's going on that site, we continue to show it. I think hospitality is a decent use for that because again, it's high. There is that visibility. You bring up a great point, Alderman, that these, you know, retailers want visibility, you know. So for just say a 3-tenant strip or something like that, that's not going to be as attractive, but hospitality use certainly. So we are in active conversations with developers on that right now, and are happy about that because it, like you said, it's been vacant for a little while.
Yeah, they might could have done a better job of utilizing. They might could have made a U-shape out of that and turned those buildings where it would give an access to it, but you know, they didn't ask me.
Well, and a long time ago, that was intended as a hospitality location.
Right, exactly.
And I see it's owned by the same people.
Yeah.
You know, on where the other's going, so that may be moved.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
y'all.
appreciate you taking the
I
time to
appreciate
come
it
give
very
us
much.
what is a nice update.
Yeah,
Yeah.
happy to deliver a nice update.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not always that way.
Okay. All right, moving into our agenda, which has got a little bit of, not fluff to it, it's got a little bit of depth to it. So we have a couple of sets of minutes. Mr. Huskisson, anything about those? All good? So we can put those on consent? Okay. And then we've got some employee introductions. Did we determine how many of those we've got? 7. Okay, we didn't listen to me at all when I said let's have just a few, did we? Okay, all right.
Who's adding new employees?
Yeah, and then we will have Jeremiah, former Alderman Dumas, will be coming to us with, as he does annually, with his Smart Bus presentation, and that requires a public hearing, which we will have as it relates to that. So we will look forward to hearing from him on all those good numbers. Then we have 5 public hearings that Mr. Haviland has got us set for. So you want to come give us a little bit of a preview here, Daniel?
Yes, the first one, they're all special exceptions. The first one's involving accessory structures that are located within the front yard corner lot. The applicant had actually built the structure, started building back in 2023, and it came to our attention, so now she's going through the process to keep the structure.
Okay.
And the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed it and voted 4 to 3 to recommend approval.
Okay.
The next one is for an accessory dwelling unit on Greensboro Street in the rear of the property.
Well, this says 309 Central. Our next one on our list is 309 Central. Okay.
309 Central is the same thing, it's an accessory structure to be located behind the residence. We had 2 citizens show up that were in the neighborhood that were against it, but the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 6 to 0.
Okay, so that one was unanimous? Okay.
And then for the one on Greensboro, it's the same thing, accessory dwelling unit that's in the rear yard. That house is set really far off the street, and then the unit's located another couple hundred feet behind the house. So the commission voted 6 to 0 to recommend approval of that one.
And no neighbors?
No
any
neighbors
issues?
against it. Did receive 1 email from Gary Schaefer in support.
Okay, all right.
And then for the next one, it's for the 4th floor at 518 University Drive. This is a new mixed-use development that's happening right there at the corner of Jarvis and University on the cemetery across from Scooter Records. The building is fronting University. They're wanting to do 4 floors rather than 3.5 floors. 3.5 floors allowed by right. The fourth floor only really adds a couple of feet. If you're wondering what a half story is, that's when the floor is actually built into the roof. So they're just moving that up. It still has a flat roof. It's going through architecture review. It's been approved. We've been working with it for site plan review. They're getting really close. So we'll see a plat coming forward at some point in the future.
Okay, do they know when they're gonna get started?
As soon as they can get all the approvals.
Okay.
There's a lot of moving pieces because they're having to work around the fiber line.
Yeah.
They're just going University Drive, they're going to power, and stuff. So they're getting fairly close. I know they're wanting to start sometime this year.
Okay.
You're gonna also have an accessory building behind it, no?
Correct. There's two buildings that'll be fronting Jarnigan Street. Those are two Townsend buildings. They're only 2 stories.
Okay.
They're putting utilities underground
Correct, in the front.
and the P and Z vote.
Hmm?
The P and Z vote was,
Yes. And then the last one is for a public hearing for locating a manufactured home on a vacant lot at 1560 Louisville. This is on 16 section land, and it's along Louisville Street. Planning and Zoning Commission has said in the past to the school district that they won't be in favor of anything on Louisville Street, only on Sand Road. They debated this one for a long time, and the final vote was 4-3 to recommend.
Okay, go ahead.
They've already cleared that lot, correct?
They have, and you remember when we were on P and Z together, the disaster. Out of curiosity, do we know when that lease was executed on the 16th section
I
land?
don't know when it was executed. It was sometime in, I would imagine, the last 6 months.
Okay.
Well, and let me add a little bit to that, because it's sort of a lack of coordination, but I have talked to the school district, and we are now in better communication for when they're going to look at those leases so that we don't have this situation come to us again.
And a lot of the issues is the changeover on their side and their lack of the person leaving tells the person coming in what's what. So every time somebody new's come in, they reinvent the wheel with stuff that dropped.
Yeah.
So we're going to try not to let that
Yeah,
happen.
we've already updated all the information, so on a whole new, like, kind of map of residential areas.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? All right, thank you. And we've already determined the mayor has no business, which we will say, on the new agenda. And then under board business, we've got 3 different positions that are in need. The Bryan Field Airport Board, Russ Rogers' term ended, and we needed to go ahead and get him in, or well, he's requested to be put in, and we advertised for all of our boards and commissions and have not received any letters of interest, and so we have letters from under A, we have Russ Rogers for the Airport Board. We have Wes Gordon for the Starkville School District. So, and then with this appointment of Melita is for the Starkville Election Commission. So, all of those, no, we didn't have any other interest.
No.
So, okay. So, consent for those? Okay. And then we have the resolution for the tax increment financing. I think Lisa's finally got it in a form, and this is associated with the Guerin property with Triangle Development. So,
and this
Sandra, you've been,
this is housekeeping.
Yeah.
We committed to do this years ago. It's time to actually issue the bonds now, and this is just housekeeping sorts of things that go along with that.
okay. We will try for consent. If Alderman Beatty wishes to take it off, he certainly can. You leave it off? All right, we'll leave it off. And then we have a resolution, this is the same thing, so we'll just leave both of them off.
Yes, ma'am.
Since they are co-related, we'll put it that way. All right, under the airport, we've got clearing and grubbing for a lower of 2 quotes. Anything you wish to add to that, Mr. Lincoln? No? Okay,
And they've done a good job, by the way, clearing that. That's impressive.
okay. Consent
This-
for that?
Yes, you could add, this is for the expansion of the
Expansion.
runway to the south. Yes, if anybody asks what
Yes.
this is about.
Yes.
Consent.
All right, consent for that one. And engineering, we've got low bid for ground construction. Who's, you covering that, Cody? You want to give a little bit of a brief?
Yeah, I actually want to Steve into it. He's
Oh, okay.
This is on the project, done a good job, so.
Okay, sure.
I think Joel's got a drawing, yeah, that right there. So it's
Okay.
pretty major work at this intersection. It's all 3, there's the 3 corners, not including the Renaissance Bank. Since that one was redone a few years ago, but it'll be all ADA accessible. Parking's gonna change on the street.
Go ahead and give them the parking numbers.
Yeah, so I knew this was gonna come up. So between Worley Street and Montgomery, where Bell's is, they're actually gaining one spot. So they had 16, they're gonna have 17. The reason is because we're killing the turn lane along Lampkin, so the parking's gonna be able to go further east. And I didn't send it to Joel today, I put it in the packet, the overall new layout of Lampkin Street, whenever we paved it this summer, we're gonna add 33 spots total between Russell and Jackson Street. And so most of that is going in front of Fire Station Park.
Okay, great. That's good news. It's always good news when we talk about adding parking.
And also the other goal is
Unobtrusively adding parking.
Excuse me, the
Go
other
ahead.
goal is to kind of clear up some of the traffic issues. I think everybody's driven through there, and it's really tough to navigate that intersection because it's so big. This will actually reduce some of the available movements, and so I think it will make the movements a lot easier and more intuitive. And Stephen has also set this up as Lampkin develops to the west. We have built the cross-section that would then need to be mirrored to the west, So we've kind of given the template going forward. So it's really a big picture plan, what could come 10, 15 years from now. So
Yeah,
this is
I think it's really exciting, particularly since this intersection in town is the one that we get the most complaints about the most often. So hopefully this will help clear up some of that and ease some of the angst of pulling up there and trying to figure out who's going first.
We've had a traffic engineer look at it with the proposed improvements, and they said the intersection is actually gonna work better because you're not gonna have 10 people looking at each other. So
Yeah.
who's turning?
Yeah, you go, no, you go. Yes,
And I
perfect.
see you're adding shareable, you gonna have those on the pavement for the,
Yes, sir.
okay, that'd be good.
Okay, cool, nice job, Steve. Thank you. All right. Consent for that one? Consent. All right, good deal. And then we have a low bid from the tree huggers for trimming, cutting, et cetera, and that includes stump grinding?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, okay. Can we consent for that one? All right, thank you. We have a claims docket and then financials. Anything about the financials, Willis? No? Anything about the financials we need to know, Senator, or anything? Okay, all right. Consent for that one? All righty. HR?
Yes, ma'am, these are all replacements.
Okay, nothing to add to that?
Nothing to add.
All right, so we have someone for utilities, for police officer, and seasonal sanitation. Consent for those?
Consent.
All right, thank you. IT, Joel, you want to help us with what we got here?
Yes, ma'am. This is a refresh of quite a bit of network gear, and this is 100% reimbursable through a grant that we applied for earlier. So it's going to put us in pretty good shape.
Well, that's excellent news. All right, consent for that one?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. And then parks, we have applying for funding for the recreational trails. This is for the skate park. So I got to tell you, we did a little skate park tour, which was fabulous. We went up to the northern part of the state. We West Point and Tupelo and Oxford and all around. And it was really, they got some cool skate parks. I would love to have all the body parts that would allow me to do this. But hopefully we'll get some success out of this and have a skate park. That'd be way cool. So, consent for that one?
Yes.
All right. Have fun. Have fun.
That would be
All right,
so
and
nice.
Chief, I see 2 100% reimbursable grants. These are the ones we usually do for alcohol, seatbelts, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, all right. Consent for those?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And then, last but never least, utilities. Mr. Kemp, I'm gonna let you just roll with this. You go right ahead.
Yeah, the first is replacing our SCADA system. It was damaged from an electrical outage a few weeks ago. We tried to revive it with our vendor and it wouldn't work. So this is to kind of rebuild the operating system there at the plant.
And you're gonna see if insurance will cover that?
We are.
Okay,
Sure.
all right.
Edward, the SCADA system, but that's got 2 different systems, doesn't it, at the wastewater treatment facility? Like one's on the older and one's on the newer side?
Some of our remote lift stations are on a different vendor than the plant operations and the major lift stations.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the one that controls the plant and the big ones like Influent, Trimcane,
Okay.
Josie, Country Club, big stations.
Consent for that one? Obviously, we gotta get it fixed.
Consent.
Sole source quote, Edward? for
This
the-
is a 6-month lead time, so we wanted to go ahead and get out ahead of it. We already purchased around 1,500 a few months ago.
Last board meeting,
meetings
or more
ago.
even before? Yeah.
So this is getting another 2,000, which is gonna get us close to what we think we need to have.
Total? What we need, what we think we need total?
Total, yes.
Total? Okay, all right. Consent for that
Consent.
one? Okay. Purchasing, state contract, of course.
This is some IT equipment recommended by Joel for our main office and op center for better continuity and better monitoring.
Okay. Consent for them, all right.
These, number 4 is the replacement of the well meters. We talked last meeting about, that was one of the sources of loss. So this is to replace, the first is just to purchase the meters for $32,000, and item 5 is to actually install them.
And this is all 7 of them?
Yes.
Even
this is
though
all
some
7
of them were supposedly working?
Yep, all seven of them of the same style meter, obviously 2 different sizes depending on the well.
Yeah, is the reason we're replacing those so they can all be identical for the?
And they probably are nearing their life. So-
Okay, all right, consent for both of those? Okay, for that would be for the installation of the meters themselves, okay. And then number
Item 6 is
6?
to replace a truck that went out this week. Transmission has about 175,000 miles. It reached its useful life, the transmission went out, so this is to purchase a new vehicle to replace it.
Okay, consent for that?
And then the last is to do an evaluation of our Josie Creek lift station to understand the existing flow and capacities for possible additions from the North Star Park.
Okay, consent for that one? All right. And then under executive session, we'll be dealing with what's underneath there, plus probably one additional thing, but we're not sure about that at this point in time. So, all right, that takes us to the end of our agenda. So, anything, any
But I mean,
questions?
can I ask him that?
Yes, sir. Alderman Vaughn. Oh, you were afterwards. Oh, okay, no problem, I'm sorry. All right, so thank you, everyone, we appreciate it. We'll shut down the meeting, and we will look forward to seeing everyone. Did you already do that?
Burning
Okay.
yesterday.
Okay.